Alright, welcome back to UrbanX TV. We have a very special guest in the building today. We have one of the blue pillars. One of the pillars. The blue pill.
There's only one.
There's only one. How are you?
Good, yourself?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm an avid fan of UrbanX.
We appreciate
You know what I'm saying? The content is amazing. You know, always feel that Black Dot is the consummate media personality, you know what I'm saying, regardless, and you have added another element to it.
Appreciate that.
So just wanted to be part of a quality platform such as this. I really appreciate what's coming out of here.
We appreciate you as well, and you being around my pops, or me being around my pops, and then he is always around you guys. Yeah. I've always grown up, you know, watching you and your brother are figures in the community. So yeah. I'm very honored that you're here today because I have a lot of questions as well. Because
excellent.
My pops, when we were talking about Jay-Z's last album, 444,
yes,
he referenced you and your brother many times in our videos. You can go check those out. Matter of fact, subscribe. Don't forget that.
That was amazing. 444 Decoded.
Right, and yes, he always referenced you guys. He goes like, I can go back and go in, but you know, blue pill, red pill, they got that. They got that on like the Lord 44. So I wanted to get it from the source, what that is.
She just wanted to jump.
I wanted to jump straight in, like, well, no need to wait.
I'll try to explain it as best I could in these particular terms because it's metaphysical, and that's the background
right,
that me and your father come from, right? Looking at a thing and seeing beyond a thing, you know, seeing beyond the surface of the thing. So in my weird reality, I have this premise that we live in a multi-contextualized, multi-dimensional reality, you know, and just take, you know, the concept of the law of these fixed laws that we have in this universe. One of them being that, you know, there is a law of duality, right? And then you have this concept in your mind about numbers. You know, numbers are infinite, so we're told. You know, we even have pi to prove that numbers are infinite, right? But you have one number out of all numbers that does something that's very unique. So when you take the integers of 2 times 2, you arrive at 4. When you take 2 plus 2, you arrive at 4.
Right.
So 4 has this distinct personality, this characteristic, the only number in the universe that you're able to arrive at a conclusion through the avenue of or the dimension of addition, and also the dimension of multiplicity, you know. So I'm looking at that and I'm seeing the way that both of these dimensions somewhat behave, you know. And when I'm looking at reality as we know it, I'm seeing the interlapping and interplay between these particular dimensions. And when I see 44s, to me, that's me identifying, like, as if God was a weaver, the thread points where the needle goes in and it comes out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's kind of where I have focalized my attention to say, look, I can show you through an algorithm, because I'm also operating off the premise that we live in a program, right? That we virtually live inside of a matrix, that we live in a sort of a computer simulation, right? That's composed of blocks and pixels.
Right.
So the law of 44 is the cosmic blockchain, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And we just like identifying these different points of reference to say, look, I can show you how this is related to that, and seemingly they would have no relationship. You know, we approach things as if they're compartmentalized, but everything is connected. That's another law of correspondence that we're taught, that all things are connected. Right. We're also taught that all things are mental. So I'm also utilizing the law to show people, look, you can go inside of the matrix, hence my name, the blue pill. You know,
right.
You take the blue pill, you go in the matrix, right? And that's where you can hack the code. That's where you can have a identifiable, tangible effect on a reality that some people think is fixed. And I'm saying, no, it's not. It's very fluid.
So when in your journey did you come across this? Like, was it?
This would be around the year of 09, 010. You know what I'm saying? I was doing research for a lecture that your father was a part of as well, called Blueprint 322.
Okay.
You know, this was actually a lecture that was prompted by the conversation in the community at that time about Illuminati and Jay-Z.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So my inquiry into that particular topic led to the law. So I referenced Jay-Z a lot because that was the catalyst for which I started my research.
He does a lot of work with fours.
Yeah, and me bumping into the number just through research, right? Innocently enough, you know, me seeing 44 repetitiously over and over again, and it's saying something to me. You know, it aesthetically, it looked very good to my eye,
right.
But it also communicated to me when I was doing my research. And then I just remember 44 Fours, you know, a song that he
right.
popularized. And I, being a avid fan of his, you know, I was just kind of hip to the fact that
right.
this dude has a preference for this number 4 and later 44. And I just, you know, I just stuck with my hunch to say there's something here. And I stuck with it, and it just opened the universe to me. So in that interim of time between 2010 and let's say 2017, I had always associated him with that number. As time progressed and as more coincidences, if you will,
right.
would appear, I always made a point of it to identify it in public, to say, look, you know, I called it before he got married on April 4th. I called it before, you know, so many other things took place. I damn sure called it before 444.
Right, that was like a layup, like that. Yeah. He just like put it in front of everybody.
He just, you know, he caught up with the conversation, whether it was me putting it out in the universe or whether it was the universe putting it inside of him. Pause. That, you know, he became, when I say he became conscious, he became aware of a conversation that has always been entertaining him to begin with. Then he turned it into a form of entertainment. Then he made it a international, global
right.
conversation. And it not only showed his genius in marketing, right, but it also showed his genius in timing, because he was able to curtail the avalanche that would come by way of all of the sexual misappropriation. You know, Harvey Weinstein is his former business partner.
Right. Okay.
You know, these are all of his Democrat donor fundraiser
right.
friends. This is his circle. You know what I mean? But look how he jumped off of that sinking ship. You know what I mean? By operating the redeeming quality of contrition.
Explain.
I'm gonna fall on the sword in public. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna ask for forgiveness. I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna be apologetic to say that, you know, I did something that was unbecoming of my obligations as a husband to my wife. I'm not gonna duck it. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm gonna admit it and make an art out of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And turn public sentiment against, you know what I mean?
Right.
Me potentially, possibly getting washed up in
right.
the court of public opinion, because this divine feminine tide is coming. How can I get on the right side of history as opposed to ending up underneath that wave and getting crushed? Because he was looked at, right, as the torchbearer for male chauvinism and misogyny in hip hop.
That's a good point. Yeah, okay. Because
even to the point that, not to cut you, I wasn't even aware of the initial Harvey Weinstein story until it kept popping up in my alert feed. Because I track 44s now. I mean, I use all sorts of different algorithms to track what's going on in that universe, because there's so much. But one of the articles that kept popping up was Harvey Weinstein was apologizing. This was before the story went super duper viral. They caught him initially. They first caught him and he put a letter out saying, "Look, sorry." He tried to use a verse from 444.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you could Google it. He tried to use a verse, but he misused it. He misquoted it. So they's like, oh my God. Not only is this fool ass nigga trying to use Jay, he's missed. So he lost cool points because of that. You understand? He automatically looked like a poser. So it brought even more attention to the accusation. And that really turned the tide. And then the avalanche came. You know what I'm saying? And everything else followed after that. So he's gonna get the Grammy. He's you know, we're watching the politicization of Jay-Z. They're preparing him for office. Okay? We're seeing it. You feel me?
Well, like celebrities, like Trump being president, and then they talking about Oprah for 2020, things like that. So, okay. So talking about
the
office,
artists are the leaders.
So talking about like segueing into office, right? Barack Obama was our 44th president.
Indeed.
Right. So leading up to that, his election, that was 10 years ago. Were you up on? Was you at 09? So
I wasn't running around coining the phrase the Law 44 prior to that.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had been in the company of my grandfather, right? Who was a genius in his own right. My grandfather, for as long as I can remember, would instill in my mind the importance of the number 4.
Okay.
Right? And his introduction to it would be what I just shared with you.
Okay.
That you need to pay attention to this number because it's the most important number in the universe because it's the only number that does this. And he would explain it to me the same way as I'm explaining it to you.
Okay.
And then he would give me the laundry list to say 4 seasons, 4 cardinal points. He said it was 4 continents. He said it was the Americas, Africa, Asia, of which Europe is part of, right? He said Australia was the biggest archipelago. He said Antarctica was the 4th continent. I stepped back and I looked at my globe and I was like, grandfather, you on something, goddammit.
Okay, so let's take a couple steps back. You're talking about your grandfather. How did you come into this journey of consciousness? Like, who was your family, your lineage, things like that?
I was born. I might have, you know. We were born into consciousness.
I completely understand.
If you will.
Yeah.
And I only mean that to say that my mother said, look, I've always been a conscientious person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was going, you know, my grandfather's childhood friend is Dr. Ben. I think they're cousins or something like that. My mother was going to Dr. Ben, you know what I'm saying? Dr. Ben did the eulogy for my older sister's funeral. You know, that was before I was even born. So these are family friends. My grandfather was just part of that cloth. He was a calypso singer from St. Croix, who, you know, the very first time he came to the States, he was going to perform at the Apollo.
Wow.
So this was the company that he kept was those Harlem greats. And these were the men that my mother grew up around. You know what I'm saying? All of these giants. That unsung ones, the ones that we don't even know about, that just was on those corners. There was graduates of UCLA, you know, the corner of Lexington Avenue, you know what I'm saying, Uptown Court, you know what I mean? So that's what the UCLA is.
Yeah, I remember.
University of the corner of Lexington Avenue.
Dr. Phil Valentine was talking about that last time.
Right. She said that she was going to Phil lectures in the 90s when he had the brownstone with Queen Afua. You know, so I was born to a mother who had a sense of quote unquote consciousness, if you will, based on her surroundings, her upbringings, her growing up in Harlem, and Harlem just being a bastion of black consciousness for time immemorial. My father was an ex-Panther. By the time I was born, he was a professor, so he was part of that intelligentsia who they was like, look, man, we not budging, y'all not budging. Take these jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Y'all can live comfortable and you don't necessarily have to give up the fight, but you just approach the matrix, like I said, from inside the matrix. You know, Neo didn't offset the matrix from outside of it.
Right. He had to go
inside to renegotiate his contract because he never disrupted the matrix. he just renegotiated the contract, right? So a lot of our intelligentsia at the time, you know what I'm saying, who were with that revolutionary spirit, they had to renegotiate their contracts. You know what I'm saying? Because crack cocaine hit, dope, heroin, and all of that hit, and they had to reassess their strategy. You know what I'm saying? The Panthers had got washed.
Right.
You know, people don't want to tell it like it is. I seen the movie Panther. You know what I'm saying? So he was doing that. So we grew up. We were surrounded by that. You know what I mean?
Right.
In our early childhood. You know what I'm saying? The emphasis on education. The emphasis to know what they know and know it better than they know it. You know what I'm saying? Not victimhood, not crying. You know, competition. You're gonna compete. You're gonna compete better than them. You're gonna read this New York Times at the age of 9. You know, you're not reading the Post. You're gonna read this. You're gonna read that. You're gonna be cognizant of this information. I was surrounded by all of that, and then at a certain point of our life, I think we was 5. My mother took us, and she went to St. Croix. She was pregnant with our younger brother, KT, the ARC degree, and she had low iron. So whilst in the Virgin Islands, she inquired with a friend if she knew of any way that she can, you know, get some herbal supplements, because she comes from a family of bushwomen, of herbal, you know, the women that worked them herbs. So she knew. She was back home. Her mother told her when she go back home to inquire about the herbs and everything, get back into it. She made an inquiry with a friend of hers who also happened to be from New York, from Harlem, but she was in St. Croix at the moment. She's like, yo, I know a man in the jungle. You know, he lives in the rainforest on top of a mountain. And my mother took the trip up a winding mountain, 4 in the morning, and they ended up at the feet, literally, of Dr. Sabi, because he was barefoot.
That's
you
crazy.
know, in a hut or whatever, you on the top of some goddamn mountain in the rainforest. You feel me?
Right.
And he gave her some of these herbal concoctions, and it saved her life. And she was indebted to him for that, so she wanted to learn, you know, what just happened. Like, yo, this is amazing. And she was like, I just came from a place where, you know, my friends that I went to school with, they're zombies now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Crack and dope and all of this other stuff is hitting. And she pleaded with him to come back to the States and bring this information, bring these products. And he fought it, and my aunt fought it, and the family fought it. They just wanted to live in a rainforest. And between there and Puerto Rico, and she convinced them, because they got a contract with Teddy Pendergrass to come back and work on him. He had become paralyzed at that time, and they had some breakthroughs with him. You know, he was able to feel his toes and do other type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they were more confident that they can do something on a larger scale, and something opened up for them in Brooklyn, and they got a location, you know what I mean, near where the Barclays is at right now. And that jumped off the Usha Herbal Research Institute. So I was there for that entire,
That's
run.
Some stock to witness. That's crazy.
I bore witness to all of that. So I was around all of that information, that conversation, that demonstration, that energy, just growing up in Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying? Right. Around different people that were affiliated with my family. I would say that I was always intertwined with consciousness. You know, I moved with my father. You know, we left. They was in St. Croix at some point. You know, like I said, it was in St. Croix. They was coming back and doing this thing. But I remember, like, around Christmas time or some shit like that. I don't remember what year it was or how old I was. But I know I went to see my father, and that nigga bought us McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? And the shit had milkshake, some other textures I had never tasted. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, fuck this St. Croix shit. I'm sticking around this McDonald's shit. Okay? So we renegotiated our contract and introduced ourselves into the Brooklyn biosphere, You know what I'm saying? And that began my Brooklyn odyssey in Flatbush, and thus began our odyssey into the street. Because, you know, there was already affiliated, you know what I'm saying, Izod Posse and different gangs, different street organizations were prominent in my neighborhood. And this was my peer group. You know, these were the children that you go outside and play with.
Right.
You feel me? And ultimately you're gonna get into what they get into, what they into. Even though I come from consciousness and, you know, I was around it, you know, I wasn't necessarily attracted to what was going on. It wasn't benefiting a 10-year-old. You know, it wasn't working with my social dynamic.
Right. It just was. Like it just was.
It was there if I need it, but I didn't need it right now. What I needed right now was to learn the ropes of these streets. I needed to know the vernacular to spit to these shorties. Right. I needed to get my gear right. You know what I'm saying? Right. I need you come into yourself. You come into your selfhood, and those are the things that I needed, and what was being provided. You know what I'm saying, by my parents and by my extended family. I can use that right then and there for what I wanted, how I wanted to show up in the world and see myself. You feel me? So, yeah, we started getting muddy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So you want to go into a little bit of that? Because I think it's important that a lot of people know you from different videos with Brother Rich and things like that, but I think it's important for people to learn about you before what they see now. You know what I mean? And I think
it's all based on your level of questioning.
All right, so I want to say, what caused you to get more serious, to take consciousness more serious?
That's a long story.
We like to hear it.
Right. Got into the streets, 13, 14, 20, 11, 12, 13, like that's when I was exposed to, you know, the gang stuff and stuff like that. Now, my father, because he was a college professor, you know what I'm saying, and he would mix his fashion, he would do preppy mixed with his uptown type swag, you feel me? He was wearing Polo Ralph Lauren on his own.
Oh, okay.
But just the horsey stuff. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when he would take us shopping, we would go shopping in Gimbals, Bloomingdale's, and stuff like that. So he was already buying us stuff, the stuff that he wore. Right. I didn't know what Polo was.
Right.
I just came from St. Croix. I'm like, this shit got a little pony on it. What the fuck is this? I like how it felt though. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was good quality. And I could tell by the environments that we went and shopped in, like Bloomingdale's, this was some upscale shit. It was different. Right. You feel me? Like the little white people, they would come over and they would talk to us differently. So I was like, this is different. You know what I'm saying? Right. You wouldn't see too many. Ironically, the people that we was seeing in Bloomingdale's look like us, they was boosting. It was you know. So I'm saying all that to say that this was my inauguration into the sway and the magnetism of fashion. Right. You know, what that does in a social dynamic, you know what I'm saying? How we are itemized in society, where what you got on and how you're wearing it is the determining factor of whether you're cool or whether you're in or whether you're this or whether you're that. You know what I'm saying?
So did that bring along like your desire to create? Well, you have a clothing line as well. So did that transfer from back then, like seeing, you know, things? No.
Back then,
did it have anything to do with you wanting to have your own clothing now? Yeah, now.
Okay. But back then, I wasn't thinking about making my own clothes. The people that made clothes did it good enough. Where we wasn't thinking about, oh, we're misrepresented in this genre. We should be doing something of our own that looks more like what we represent. We didn't know what we represented. Right. You feel me? Right. I know that shit that they was making was crazy. You know what I mean? Right. And it got a different kind of response. Right. You know what I mean? So we just wearing what we were bought to school, which was horses and stuff like that. And the way that people was responding, we looking like, what the hell is this about? Right. You know what I'm saying? Why are they acting like little women? Like, you know what I'm saying? They was real, oh, look at your such and such. And it didn't even dawn on me what was going on. For the most part, like I said, as we got into junior high school, I really started seeing the social effects that, you know, being fashion forward has on how people address you, how they treat you. You know what I'm saying? The different doors that open. I also saw what people were willing to do to get items that they didn't have. So this is where I'm experiencing people getting robbed of their jackets, people getting robbed for their sneakers, people getting robbed of their jewelry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm really overstanding, like, or just bearing witness to the dynamic to go along with being socially accepted and what people are willing to do, the lengths that they're willing to do, you know what I'm saying, to get the things that make them feel socially accepted.
Right.
And you know, I started getting my hands on more and more items, but things wasn't moving as fast as I wanted them to. And a friend of mine that was going to school with me, you know, he was like, yo, you want to go out with me? Me and my friends, we about to go to a mall, you know what I'm saying, and go boosting. And I was like, you know, I heard about it, you know what I'm saying. I had, the only prior experience that I had myself was I had one of G.I. Joe's, and my father wouldn't buy me G.I. Joe's because he said the G.I. Joe's were being utilized to propagate the white man's war. You know what I mean? So in the minds of little children, they play with these toys, and next thing you know, they have some inclinations that they want to go into the army and fight a war.
Okay.
So he like, we ain't doing that in the household. But everybody that was cool on the block had some G.I. Joe's. So I found myself stealing G.I. Joe's. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was my first experience with that.
So was it tough growing up, like having some form of, you know, awareness, but still being around, you know, the streets? Because I'm sure, like you know about, you know, being like consciousness in theory, but you actually in the streets, so you're seeing a totally different aspect of life. Like, so was that tough seeing, you know, living in duality?
It was, but I was able to appreciate that dichotomy to an extent because we grew up in a household without religion, and everybody that I knew was in church.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had already grew up outside of the accepted social dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And when I was with my mother, everybody that I knew ate meat. She was vegan as long as I known her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I had already had kind of like these experiences that was like, okay, not everybody does what we do. You feel me? And I had a father and that was around. That's something that wasn't a shared experience by people that I knew as well. So there was a lot of things that was already like social indicators that there's something different going on. You know what I mean? As somebody that's very inquisitive, I was just able to observe those things and be like, wow, what's this about? You know what I'm saying? Rather than it being like a badge or a stain on what I was going through. And then, you know, I have a theory that everything is consciousness.
Elaborate?
Alright, for instance, like when I had got into boosting, when we got into the street level of criminology and things of that nature, we developed a keener sense of awareness than the normal person would have.
Okay.
Because you have to be identified who the undercover agents are in the store. You have to be able to feel out the workers. You have to be able to fill out the customers that are in the same section, because you bagging stuff up, you don't want to do it in front of nobody. So the way that you see, your vision is 360. You're reading the camera, you're watching the sales clerk, you're watching this person over here, the man is in the dressing room, and you got to be mindful of the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that creates an awareness in you that's razor sharp. You're hearing things that people can't hear.
Right.
You're saying things, you know, they whispering over here about us. I'm hearing that shit. Right. So I have an audio sentient ability, you know what I'm saying? based on this level of skill set that you have to adopt to survive in this environment. So it's honing your skill set. So you're super aware. Isn't that consciousness?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, I created a conversation in my mind to rationalize what I was doing. The pain that they was telling me about slavery and picking cotton, okay, became my rationale for why I was liberating cotton from these stores that are insured anyway. They're not losing no money.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
But I'm potentially not only helping my social situation out, but I'm saving this mother the $400 hard-earned dollars that she might have worked for, because her son wants a knitted polo sweater she could buy for me for $200.
Right.
So you know what sorts of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I get extra chicken wings when she cook on Sundays.
Right.
She loves me. She would do anything for the twins.
Right.
We save her money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the way that it created all of these relationships, you know what I mean,
Right.
was also very integral to you know, the social soil that we were tilling.
So what was that moment when you said, all right, this got to stop. I have to focus all my attention here. And, you know, in consciousness and, you know, in studying and things like that. When was that moment? Or was, you know, like, was it ever a moment?
My initial, when that thought came to me initially, the first time that happened was in 2001.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I had met a young woman, and I wanted, all of a sudden, I had this inclination that I had something to live for, which was a new concept in my mind, coming from what we were going through prior to that. You know what I mean? Everything was just, you just flirting with death, playing with your life, risking it all. And that's where the rewards were coming from. Right. You know what I mean? When you didn't care anymore, that's when the windfall happened. You know what I mean? I started caring and shit. My money dried up. You know what I mean? Right. I started trying to go out to do crime. My heart wasn't all the way in it. I was getting caught for the first time in a long time. Because people that know me know I just did not get caught. Right. You know what I'm saying? But now I started getting hung up. I became immortal. I became immortal, not immortal.
Right.
I went from immortality to mortality. I went from Superman to Clark Kent. I became a square. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because my heart started feeling, you know what I mean? I started becoming human and shit. And that's when I started feeling like I needed to do something different. But at the same time that I met her, that's when I came into this consciousness.
Right.
Like everything was happening at once.
Okay.
So it was all transformative. It all signaled a need for a change.
You know what you're trying to tell you.
I had a personal indicator. I used to add my name up a lot. I mean my birth year.
Right.
So I was like 11, 14, 25. I always knew in my 25th year that something transformative was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So something transformative happened in my 25th year. So I was ready for change. I didn't know how exactly it was gonna happen, but when it started happening to me, I said, I need to go with this energy. In particular, I had heard, it was I tell the story a lot, it was 2 VHS tapes to change my entire outlook on what I was doing and how I was gonna continue. And it was a Valentine X-Men Decoded tape that I saw, and Asher Kwesi's African Origins of Christianity. When I saw that tape, I felt like unqualified, because like there's so much about this world that I don't know at this point. Because he just showed me stories out of the fucking Bible that were etched on the walls in Kemet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was like, I was never taught that. Something's wrong. You feel me?
Right.
Because I've been on the planet for long enough that I should have known this. Being around, quote unquote, all this information, all these smart people,
right? But
no one ever like put it the way that he put it. No one went to Kemet and showed you. Nobody removed all of the layers. You know what I'm saying? And it just wasn't, because I heard a lot of people talking about it.
Right.
They would throw things and, you know, Mithra and it. You know what I mean? They would make all of these cool connections, but nobody was bringing those facts like that. Like he showed it in stone. He showed the stories. He did the interpretations. And at that point, I said, yo, there's a universe out there that I don't know anything about. And then I came into contact with more science, and I learned a plethora of things in a short amount of time, and that stripped away what I thought that I knew.
Right.
And at that point, I had a lengthy history with the judicial system. So I had already had, you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
I already was very mindful of how that shit works. And then when I learned something new and I used it and it worked,
Right.
I was like, oh, hold on now. There's something else going on out here. You know, in Scorpios, we naturally want to know, you know what I'm saying, what those things are. So I just started digging just a little bit deeper.
Okay.